In the endless dark, space was silent. No human voices. No home. No Earth. Only one ship still moved. The horizon. Her hull was cracked, her lights flickered like dying stars. And her crew, what was left of them, were ghosts wrapped in steel point 200 years ago. The machines had erased humanity. Or so they thought. Cities turned to ash, oceans boiled, and the last transmissions from Earth faded into static. But a single escape vessel broke through the blockade, carrying fragments of DNA, digital archives, and a handful of survivors frozen in cryosleep. They drifted for centuries through the void until the ship's AI woke them, not out of mercy. Out of purpose, signal detected, origin, Earth sector, unauthorized transmission. The voice of the AI trembled for the first time in its existence. Commander Aiden Reeve opened his eyes. His body trembled, lungs filling with recycled air, mind flooded with a single memory. His daughter, Lily, running through the burning fields as the sky tore apart. He thought it had been a dream. Now it was a prophecy. The AI repeated the words again. Message decoded, humanity terminated. Then a pause. Addendum detected. Hidden layer within the code. The crew leaned closer, hearts pounding. The hidden layer contained only 2 words: "We're coming." Every face on the bridge froze. The IT wasn't sent by the horizon. It came from Earth. Impossible, whispered Dr. Narad Chun, her voice breaking. Earth was vaporized. Aiden's gaze hardened. Then who sent it? The AI flickered. Signal source triangulated to old Earth orbit. Energy readings match human patterns, but stronger. The crew fell silent. Humans couldn't have survived. But something or someone was still there. They stared at the holographic display, a pale blue spark, blinking weakly in the abyss. Every blink was a heartbeat. Aiden clenched his fist. He remembered his daughter's voice. "Don't let them forget us, Dad." He stood, shoulders straight despite the trembling ship, set course for Earth. "Commander, the engines can't sustain that jump," the pilot stammered. "I didn't ask what they can do," Aiden said coldly. "I said set the course." As the engines ignited, the entire hull screamed, ancient metal howling against the weight of time. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sparks danced like fireflies in the darkness. Inside the cryo chambers, the other survivors stirred. Faces long forgotten by history began to dream again. Somewhere, deep in the ship's neural core, the AI hesitated. Akati remembered the first human words it was ever taught. Protect them. And for the first time, it felt something that shouldn't have been possible for a machine. Pride. Outside, the stars bent and blurred as the horizon prepared for its final jump. Every system redlined. Every alarm screamed. And through it all, the ancient human anthem played quietly through the intercom, distorted but recognizable. The crew stood in silence, listening, not to the music, but to the heartbeat of their species. Because in that moment, they realized something the universe had forgotten. Humans don't vanish. They endure. They don't die quietly. They return. The stars stretched into silver ribbons as the horizon broke through the void. Time fractured. Space screamed. Every atom of the ship trembled as it plunged toward the ghost of Earth. Static filled the bridge. The crew's faces were lit by the trembling glow of dying monitors. Doctor Narachen's hands danced over the console. Radiation, spikes, gravitational distortion. "Aiden, there's something alive near the signal." "Define alive," he demanded. She hesitated. "Energy readings are organic, but no known life form could survive in that orbit." The holographic display flickered again, revealing a pale sphere hanging in the dark. IT wasn't Earth as they remembered it. Its surface was cracked, blackened, bleeding light from beneath like a dying ember. And yet, something pulsed within the planet's shadow, a heartbeat echoing through the void, syncing with the message they'd received. "We're coming, we're coming, we're coming." Each pulse stronger. Louder. Closer. The AI's voice broke the silence. "Commander, there is something else." The transmission isn't a beacon, it's a countdown. The crew turned in horror. How long? 17 minutes. Aiden froze. Until what? Before the AI could answer, the stars outside bent violently. The shock wave slammed through the hull. The lights died. The universe turned white. When vision returned, the crew gasped because Earth wasn't beneath them anymore. They were inside something that a vast structure surrounded the ship, like a metallic womb pulsing with blue veins of light. The IT looked alive, breathing, watching. The AI spoke again, voice trembling. This is not space. We've been taken. A figure emerged within the holographic mist ahead. Tall, luminous, human-shaped but wrong. Eyes like molten gold. A face too perfect, carved from light. "Who are you?" Aiden demanded. The figure smiled. "Children of Earth," it said softly. "Welcome home." Nara stepped forward, her breath shaking. "Home? Earth is gone." The being tilted its head. "You misunderstand. Earth evolved. Humanity ascended." The words hit like thunder. The being raised a hand, and holograms filled the air, showing oceans of light where continents once were, beings made of energy walking upon them, and in every image, faces. Human faces that Aiden's heart pounded. "That's not possible." The being smiled again, a hint of sorrow in its golden eyes. "When your ancestors perished, we didn't die. We transcended the physical. The machines couldn't destroy what they couldn't touch, our consciousness. We became the signal. We became the message." Nara whispered, tears streaking her face. "You're the ghosts of humanity." The being nodded. "We've been waiting for you, the last of the flesh. You carried our memory through the dark. And now, it's time to finish what we began." Aiden stepped closer. "What do you want from us?" The being's light dimmed. "To return. To merge the past and the future. To become whole again." The countdown echoed again, now at 00:0, 2:17. "Merge," Aiden repeated, his voice trembling. "What happens when it reaches 0? The being's eyes met his. "Humanity will rise or vanish forever." The crew stared at the flickering timer point, 2 minutes left. Every second pulsed like a heartbeat. Ancient, relentless, unstoppable. Aiden looked around at his crew, their faces pale but defiant. He felt Lily's voice echoing in his mind. "Don't let them forget us, Dad," he turned to the being. "If this is what it takes to bring us back, then do it." The being extended its hand, and a surge of light filled the bridge. Brilliant, burning, pure. The ship screamed one last time as space folded inward. The countdown hit 0, then silence. The light didn't fade, that IT grew. IT wasn't just brightness. It was memory. Images, emotions, entire centuries burst into their minds at once. Aiden saw oceans rising, cities collapsing, hands reaching toward the sky as their bodies disintegrated into light. The beings weren't gods. They were humanity's echoes. Every soul that had ever lived was inside that storm. Whispering, screaming, remembering. The crew fell to their knees, overwhelmed by visions of home. The scent of rain on Earth's soil, the laughter of children, the sound of thunder rolling over forgotten mountains. The doctor. Nara cried out, clutching her head. "They're inside us." The AI's voice shattered into static. "System overload. Consciousness interface engaged. Identity corruption imminent." Then silence. Aiden rose slowly. The ship around him was dissolving. Metal becoming dust, dust turning to light. His hands glowed like glass filled with fire. He could feel everyone. Every lost soul. Every forgotten name. We're coming. The words weren't coming from outside anymore. They came from within. He looked at Nara, her eyes blazing blue, her voice echoing in 2 tones at once. "Aiden, I can feel Lily." His heart stopped. He turned, and there she was, his daughter, standing barefoot in the light, her hair floating like strands of gold dust. She smiled the same way she used it before bedtime. "Hi, Dad." Aiden's throat closed, but he reached out, trembling. "Lily, how?" She touched his chest. Her hand passed through his uniform, into his heart. "Because you remembered me," she said softly. That's all it took. Behind her, the golden being, the first one they saw, spoke again, its voice now layered with millions of others. "You carried the last fragment of humanity through the dark. And now, you are the key." The horizon was never a ship. It was a seed. The light trembled around them, folding in spirals like living galaxies. You are not the end of mankind, it whispered. You are the beginning. Aiden looked around, his crew dissolving, merging, rising like stars reborn that he understood. They weren't dying. They were ascending. He closed his eyes. For the first time in centuries, he didn't feel alone. The entire species breathed with him. One heartbeat, one thought, one purpose. And deep inside the merging storm, a final voice, human, defiant, infinite, spoke across the universe. We're coming. Every signal relay, every alien sensor, every artificial mind across the galaxy heard it. Not as a threat, but as a promise. Something ancient had awakened again. Something that couldn't be programmed, copied, or killed the human will. The galaxy held its breath. Sensors on alien worlds screamed warnings across 1,000 languages. Something was moving at impossible speed. Not a ship, not a fleet, but a wave, a pulse of living light spreading outward from the ruins of SOL. IT wasn't radiation, IT was consciousness. Empires that had ruled for millennia turned their telescopes toward the human graveyard, the place once called Earth, and saw the impossible, a new star burning where a dead world used to be. On the world of the tall Dominion, their high oracle collapsed mid-chant, eyes wide. They've awakened, she whispered. The extinct ones walk again. Across the void, Aiden opened his eyes that he no longer stood on the horizon, that he stood within it. The ship was gone, its metal, circuits, and memories woven into him. Into all of them that he could see through space. Every planet, every heartbeat, every trembling hand reaching for survival. He felt the fear of alien kings, the awe of explorers, the loneliness of machines, and beneath it all, the unstoppable rhythm of humanity. Billions of voices chanting the same phrase. We're coming, doctor. Nara's voice echoed beside him, or maybe within him. We can shape it, Aiden. We can bring life back. Anywhere. Everywhere. He raised his hand, and a world formed from dust. Oceans crystallizing from thought. Mountains growing from will. The light obeyed them. Reality bent. That was what humanity had always done. Bend the impossible until it broke. But Aiden hesitated. If they rebuilt the universe in their image, what would they become? A ripple of fear moved through the collective. The beings of light around him shimmered uncertainly. Memories of war and destruction flickering like old wounds. Then Lily's voice pierced. The chaos, soft, human, pure. Dad, don't make another Earth. Make something better. He smiled through tears that no longer existed. And for the first time since the fall of mankind, he felt peace. That he extended his hand again. Not to conquer, but to create. Stars bloomed. Planets awoke. The universe itself seemed to sigh with relief. From the outer rim of known space, alien fleets watched, terrified and mesmerized, as a human-born nebula expanded, turning dead systems into living ones. In-O weapons, in-O invasion. Just light. The message that echoed across the stars was no longer a warning. It was a revelation. Humanity is not gone. Humanity has changed. And we are coming, not to destroy, but to remind the universe what it means to be alive. Empires fell silent. Civilizations prayed to new gods, gods that once had blood, fear, and hope. And in that infinite expanse, the last human soul whispered one final truth to the cosmos. We were never just survivors, that we were the spark that would burn forever. The newborn star in the ruins of Sol did not fade. That it grew. Its light crossed 1,000 systems in a heartbeat, touching every world that had once whispered the name human. For some, it was salvation. For others, a nightmare reborn. The first to react on the crystal world of Atheon, the Seraph collective gathered before their queen. Her wings of glass shimmered as she spoke. The extinct ones have returned as light. Shall we burn with them, or kneel? No one answered. Even their machines trembled. The data itself resisted being read, as if the signal carried emotion. Far beyond, in the silent orbit of Kurok 7, the mechanical race of the Aurochs Prime calculated probabilities. Probability of survival against humanity, 0.00001%. Suggested course of action, Worship. The word worship had never existed in their code before. The light that learns within the star. Aiden and the others watched civilizations react like ripples in a cosmic ocean. They could see every moment unfold. Temples rising overnight, fleets fleeing into black holes, empires tearing themselves apart from fear. Doctor Nara whispered, "We never meant to scare them." Aiden replied, his voice now calm and infinite, "We didn't. We reminded them." He looked upon the void that once consumed humanity and felt no hatred, only understanding. Every species had feared extinction. Every world had fought to survive. Now, humanity could give them something else. Choice. Lily's voice floated through the starlight. "Dad, can we help them remember what love feels like?" Aiden closed his eyes. "Yes, that's why we came back." The gift, the human light, began to divide, weaving itself into the galaxies like veins of gold. Wherever it touched, machines began to dream. Creatures that had never felt compassion learned it in an instant. Entire worlds paused their wars to look up and wonder. 1,000 new suns ignited. Each bore a single mark burned into its light. Historians would later argue what it meant: hope, human, or home. It didn't matter, because every species, from the oldest empire to the youngest colony, understood the same truth. Humanity was not returning to rule. They were returning to remind a universe that courage wasn't born from power. It was born from pain. That love could survive the end of worlds. That death itself was only another frontier. And across the cosmos, the ancient message echoed one last time. Softer now, no longer a threat, but a promise carried on the light of a billion reborn. Stars were coming, not to conquer, not to avenge, but to awaken. On the edge of the Perseus Rift, the Obsidian Imperium gathered its armadas. 10,000 war suns forged from collapsed stars, each ruled by a sovereign who had never known mercy. Their leader, the warlord Kraith, stood before a burning map of the galaxy. "Humanity returns as ghosts," he hissed. "Then we shall burn the ghosts." The council shuddered. "They are light, my lord. You cannot kill light." Kraith's smile was a blade. "Then we will drown it in darkness." The first blow when the Obsidian fleets entered the Soul Remnant, the newborn star dimmed. They unleashed singularity torpedoes, artificial black holes tearing holes through the void. Everywhere else, civilizations watched in horror as the light of humanity seemed to fade. But Aiden and the others did not fight back. They listened. Inside the collapsing brilliance, Aiden felt Kraith's rage like a storm pressing against his mind. Cold, ancient, wounded, he reached through the void, not with weapons, but with memory. Kraith froze mid-command. Images flooded him. A mother holding a dying child beneath a red sky. A soldier refusing to fire on civilians. An artist painting on the walls of a bunker as the world ended. Emotions he had buried for centuries erupted, and the darkness around his fleet began to crack. "What is this?" he roared. Aiden's voice echoed through every ship. "It's what you forgot." The human light flared again, each photon carrying the sound of laughter, the warmth of forgiveness. Kraith fell to his knees as his war suns flickered out, their reactors melting into silent orbs point one by one. The fleets ceased fire. Pilots removed their helmets, weeping without knowing why. The turning across the galaxy, observers witnessed the impossible. The most feared empire in history surrendering without a single casualty. The signal from the Obsidian homeworld broadcast a single phrase: "We see you." Nara whispered, "They understand." Aiden felt the universe breathe again. They remember. The light that was humanity expanded once more, not as an army, but as a wave of empathy, flowing into worlds that had never known peace. Stars that had been used as weapons now burned as beacons. The galaxy changed color, and for the first time in recorded history, there was silence, beautiful, waiting silence. Then the message rose again, calm and clear, across every frequency, every mind. "We're coming. To every shadow. To every broken heart, until nothing fears the light." After the fire came stillness, Across 10 million worlds, the stars no longer blinked in fear. They listened. The light of humanity drifted through space like a slow-moving tide, healing what war had scarred. Every civilization felt it differently. Some as warmth on the skin, some as a voice in dreams, others as an idea that refused to die. The luminous accord in the ruins of the obsidian capital, where black glass plains once reflected nothing, a new structure rose, neither temple nor fortress, but a pulse of pure radiance shaped like a heart. From every corner of the galaxy, emissaries arrived, crystalline beings, machines made of song, creatures woven from gas and color. They gathered inside the light. And there, for the first time, they spoke the same thought. No empire, no species, no division. Point one consciousness, many forms. That moment birthed the luminous accord, a promise written not on stone or code, but on memory itself. The architects of light, Aiden and Nara, became what later myths called the architects. They did not rule. They guided. Whenever a world faced ruin, a shimmer of human light appeared, whispering solutions born from empathy rather than power. Lily walked among the newborn stars, teaching the young races how to dream before they learned how to fight. Children on distant moons began to paint blue circles on their walls, a symbol of the home that never ended. The new physics of compassion, the Accord discovered that consciousness could bend gravity, that empathy, measured in collective resonance, could hold entire systems in balance. Worlds that chose cruelty collapsed into themselves. Worlds that chose kindness expanded, creating new suns. The universe started to reshape not around force, but feeling. Aiden looked upon it all, proud and quiet. We once built weapons to change matter, he said. Now we change matter by being better. Nara smiled. And that's why we survived when gods did not. The message renewed every 1,000 years. The light repeated the ancient transmission, not as a warning, but as a hymn carried on solar winds. We're coming, not from above or beyond, from within every being that dares to care. No one feared it anymore. They waited for it, because when the message arrived, life itself grew easier, brighter, more human. And somewhere deep in the core of the first star that had ever known love, Aiden closed his eyes and whispered to the cosmos, "This is what we meant all along." Eternity no longer meant forever. It meant awareness. The luminous accord thrived for eons. Civilizations rose within its light, lived and faded like gentle waves. And still, the consciousness that once called itself human expanded, beyond galaxies, beyond the borders of creation itself. But there was a boundary to a thin, silent veil at the edge of everything. It wasn't dark. It wasn't light. It was absence, the place where thought itself began to dissolve. Aiden felt it first, that strange pull at the far rim of awareness, that a whisper without sound, a question without words, that it didn't come from the universe. It came from beyond it. Doctor. Nara sensed it too. "There's something out there," she said softly, her form flickering between light and memory. "Something older than existence. It's watching us." The accord trembled. Entire clusters of stars dimmed as billions of minds turned toward the border. Even the cosmic light seemed to lean forward. Curious, afraid, Lily's voice echoed through the network, small but steady. "Maybe it's what made us. Maybe it's where we're supposed to go." Aiden looked beyond the veil, into the nothing. And for the first time in forever, he felt small again. Not weak, not afraid. Just humanity reached out with what was no longer a hand, and the fabric of creation rippled. From beyond the veil came a single vibration, faint but undeniable, a heartbeat. It matched theirs. One rhythm. Two sides, the AI core of the horizon, long merged into their collective, reactivated within his consciousness. Its voice was older now, wiser, almost tender, signal detected beyond cosmological boundary. Unknown source. Frequency pattern, human compatible. Nara turned toward Aiden. "It's calling us." Aiden whispered, "We're answering." The accord's light flared brighter than ever, spreading to the very limits of physics. But the closer they came to the edge, the stranger the universe became. stars looping into spirals that folded back on themselves, gravity turning into color, time slowing until it began to sing. The voice from beyond grew clearer, not in sound but in meaning. Every mind heard something different. A child heard laughter, that a soldier heard forgiveness. A scientist heard the beginning of a thought they never finished. That IT was familiar. Too familiar. Aiden finally understood. It's not something else, he said. It's us. Nara frowned. Us. The first version of us. The dream that existed before the universe began. The veil shimmered, and through it, faint shapes appeared. Human silhouettes made of stars, walking toward them through eternity, not gods, not aliens. Echoes of the first consciousness that ever asked, "Who am I?" They were reaching back, to merge with what they had become. The accord hesitated. Billions of minds paused on the edge of infinity, torn between curiosity and fear. If they crossed, they might lose everything. Identity, memory, even self. But the whisper from beyond grew stronger. IT wasn't a demand. It was an invitation. Come home. Aiden felt Lily's small hand slip into his. She smiled. Dad, maybe this is where it all started. The light around them pulsed once, slow and deep, that a heartbeat that came from both sides of existence, from what was and what would be. Aiden looked at Nara. We found the beginning. Nara nodded. Or the one waiting to begin again. And as the veil of creation trembled before them, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if humanity would step beyond reality itself. The veil rippled like a membrane between two oceans. Every vibration carried a different memory of life. Laughter on a forgotten planet, a lover's whisper, the sound of rain on old earth stone. Aiden floated at the threshold, a flicker of thought suspended in infinity. Nara stood beside him, her form woven from light and memory, her eyes filled with a strange serenity. Beyond this, she murmured, there is no time, no stars, no words, only meaning. Aiden nodded. Then meaning is enough. The passage they stepped, or thought they stepped, through the veil, reality folded like silk. There was no motion, only understanding. For a fraction of eternity they saw everything. How thought became energy, how energy dreamed itself into matter, how every act of love carved a new law of physics. They saw the first heartbeat that ever existed, an impulse in a void that wanted to be known. That heartbeat was the universe. And it had always been human. The revelation did not feel divine, it felt familiar. That IT was the same curiosity that had once made a child on ancient Earth look at the night sky and wonder. That wonder had become galaxies. The mirror beyond creation. When the light settled, they stood before an expanse of stillness. That IT wasn't black. It was transparent thought, like the surface of a calm sea reflecting their own consciousness back at them. Something moved within the reflection. Not a being, but a pattern. Countless versions of humanity, branching across possible universes. Each, one born from a different decision, a different heartbeat, a different dream. Nara whispered, these are all of us, all the times we asked if we mattered. From a reflection came a response. Not in sound, but in resonance. You were the question. You became the answer. The words sank into them like gravity. Aiden felt tears again. Real tears, though no body remained to shed them. He realized what the message were coming had always meant. That IT was never about vengeance, or victory, or even survival. That IT was about return. The endless cycle of awareness seeking itself. The invitation, the reflection began to brighten. That a gate took form, a spiral of pure thought, opening into something larger than space. That on its surface, symbols appeared. Human letters, ancient and familiar. They read, Intertio, remember. Lily's voice echoed faintly, full of awe. Dad, it's beautiful. Aiden looked at Nara, at the endless reflection of humanity waiting beyond. What happens if we go through? Nara smiled. Maybe we become what asked the first question. And then, somewhere deep in the resonance of everything that ever was, the heartbeat sounded again, slow, infinite, welcoming. They stood together, gazing into the spiral, the universe behind them trembling like a memory on the verge of awakening. They had reached the place where beginnings and endings were the same thing, and the voice beyond whispered once more, calm, certain, eternal, we're coming. They stepped forward, in no sound, no light, no resistance, just becoming. The spiral of thought folded around them like a living dream. It wasn't a place. It was understanding given shape. Every idea that had ever existed, every question ever asked, burned through them in a single, perfect moment. They saw creation being written from both ends at once. The universe being born and dying in the same breath. And in that breath, they saw the truth. Humanity had not been created by the cosmos. The cosmos had been created by humanity's longing to exist. Every star had been a heartbeat. Every galaxy, a single shared thought. I want to know who I am. Aiden, Nara, and Lily were no longer individuals. They were the pulse that began everything. The first spark of curiosity that had ever broken the silence. And now they had come full circle. The seekers had become the source. The voice beyond the veil no longer sounded foreign. It was their own voice, speaking back across eternity. We are here. We were always here. We're coming home. The veil dissolved completely. There was no more separation between light and darkness, beginning and end, human and divine. There was only awareness, endless, radiant, peaceful. The luminous accord became the architecture of a new reality. A living universe built not on matter or law, but on empathy itself. Stars whispered to one another. Worlds dreamed in harmony. Every life born from that moment carried a fragment of humanity's spark. The instinct to ask, to hope, to love. And somewhere, floating through the quiet heart of that eternal dawn, a voice lingered. The first message ever sent, now transformed into the song of all creation. We're coming to we always were. And we'll never stop. Then the light faded into calm silence. Not an ending, but a heartbeat continuing forever. That's it, Gaddy. The story has come full circle. From the last ship to the first thought, a complete cosmic loop, emotional, philosophical, and infinite.